Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another meta breakdown. In today's video, we're talking about two tournaments that happened over the weekend. We have the Texas 1K in the DFW area, and we have PPG Rancho Cordova out in California. So, with that being said, this is Draft Box 6 meta. We're 2 weeks into Draft Box 6 now. Week 1, we saw Draft Box 6 stuff a little bit here and there, but I think as we go into Week 2, we're going to see a little bit more immersion in the Draft Box 6 meta. But the nice thing is, this Draft Box, unlike the other Draft Boxes, isn't a complete meta landscape shifting type of product, which is really nice. It definitely acts more of like a side set and kind of just complements set 11. So maybe we can call it set 11.5, maybe we just call it Draft Box 6 format, whatever you guys want to call it. But anyways, we're gonna get into this. Guys, if you are new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you don't miss a video. If you want to help the channel out, there are many ways down in the description to do so. Today in particular, guys, check out the Patreon if you want to step up your game and start competing at some of these tournaments. I promise you I'll have you looking at the game in a different way if you're new to competitive DBS and want to start learning more about it. Anyways, let's just get right into the breakdown. So to starting off, we'll get into the kind of the ground simple statistics here. So the Texas DFW, 36 players, PPG Rancho Cordova out in Cali, 24 players. Yes, guys, these are smaller events, both of which though were IRL in-person best of 3 events. Now, of course, the gold standard for Dragon Ball Super and really card games in general is IRL like regionals and different events like that, where you have these in-person tournaments that are much bigger. When you're looking at bigger events in this current climate with the pandemic and everything, yeah, you're looking at like 128 player events, but those are the online best of 1, either webcam or untapped tournaments. And again, the gold standard is IRL best of 3. Yes, these are smaller events, but again, these are the closest things that we're getting to those gold standard types of events with the much larger best of 3. So I don't really think the size takes too much away. Yes, there was definitely you know, some restrictions on who could get to these tournaments, especially because again, we're in the pandemic, so some travel is heavily restricted. But guys, I don't think we need to have any comments in the comments down below saying like, oh, it was a glorified locals. Again, this is like the closest thing we're gonna get to these IRL quote unquote premier events, right? So I just want to kind of put that out there. But anyways, at the Texas event, here's the top 8: 2 Vegex, 2 Reboot Gohan, 1 Soul Striker Agent of Destruction, 1 Clash Goku, 1 Sin Shenron, and 1 Majin Vegeta. Vegex went on to win that tournament. And then for PPG Rancho Cordova, we had the top 8 of 2 Vegex, 2 Green Gotenks, 1 Soul Striker AOD, and 1 Soul Striker Apes, making a total of 2 Soul Striker appearances there, 1 Red Broly, and 1 Blue Vegeta. Shout out to my teammate Gabe for topping there. And the Red Broly there did go on to win PPG Rancho Cordova. So now that we have the more simple stuff out of the way, just kind of like the standard stuff here, we'll get into the breakdown. Vegex, man, I feel like such a broken record just every week saying this deck wins an event. It's so crazy. I mean, what is it about Vegex? The majority I see post-wise about this deck is, you know, oh, I'm aiming for the turn 2 kill. You're just so aggressive. And yes, that makes perfect sense, but I have to wonder, I mean, this has to be one of the more budget decks in the meta. I mean, the nice thing is we're not playing cards like Fu Mission Accomplished anymore. This deck doesn't rely on cards like Sand Instinct, so it's definitely a pretty solid budget alternative. A lot of your stuff is just cheap Overwhelm and cheap aggression that comes in the structure deck to put this together. So is it over-representation that leads to Vegex winning and dominating so much? I'm not sure, because this deck is just so much weaker than it was in the beginning. This deck had to be nerfed on 3 different occasions. First, the Turles ban, then the Universe 3 ban, and then Bibbidi had to be knocked down to a 15k maximum power with its super combo. Yes, this deck can still do some crazy aggressive things, but it's actually really surprising that this deck did so well. It took basically 4 spots out of this, you know, kind of combined top 16 in a best of 3 format, because the common consensus is that like Reboot Gohan and Vegex have been doing so well because of this kind of best of 1 thing we've been kind of forced into with the online tournaments and whatnot. That's just kind of what the consensus has been, that these aggro decks are doing so well because people aren't able to, you know, play the answers to those kinds of decks throughout their sideboard. You either have to main deck tech them, or you're kind of just like stranded out in the middle of the water just waiting for a life raft, right? So the problem here is I just don't know if Vegex needs to be addressed, because as it stands, this deck literally just wins week after week after week after week. And again, I don't know if it's a power level thing. I don't know if it's a man on a mission thing. I mean, that card is a pretty crazy addition to the deck from set 11. It's probably the main addition from the entire set. People are also playing the new 1-drop Haru Double Striker, but besides that, I mean, man on a mission is a pretty crazy card. I mean, dropping that turn 1, turn 2, where your opponent has basically no resources to defend it, that's not going to win you the game on its own, but it's going to cripple your opponent pretty heavily. So maybe that's the problem there. I mean, I did do a video, you know, a while ago at this point, probably a few months ago at this point, talking about how I think the Vegex leader is definitely going to be problematic down the road, but I really did think that with the Bibbidi nerfs, this deck was in a pretty comfortable place power level wise, but maybe it's just the leader providing you way too much free value. Like mill 5, it mills the most in the game, so your time agents and your Supreme Kais are most consistent when you're trying to play them out to the field, unlike other black leaders that only burst 3. You know, they don't get nearly as much benefit as Vegex does. So maybe the leaders needs to go. I mean, I definitely want to know in the comments below what you guys think. Is Vegex too much of a problem winning week after week after week? Is it just because it's such a pretty solid budget deck that's why so many people are playing it, and that's why so many people are doing well with it? I want you guys think, because I'm not totally sure. I thought it was at a comfortable power level, but maybe something does need to happen to this deck. Maybe the leaders needs to go all together, because no matter what Bandai seems to do, I don't think they can deal with Vegex appropriately without just getting rid of the leader at this point, because I don't know what else they can do. Again, they nerfed around it 3 times, and I'm not sure. But again, I don't think it's too overly broken, so I just let me know what you guys think in the comments. I don't know what to say about it any more than that. But anyways, Reboot Gohan, this one is certainly more interesting because this is like the pinnacle of, yeah, best of 1, I'm winning the event straight up no matter what. That's what we've been seeing, right? But again, best of 3, Reboot Gohan doing very, very well. It didn't win the event, but it did take 2 spots in the top 8. So that's definitely a very, very solid finish there. Now, I've been hearing some stuff about, you know, Draft Box 6 heavily improving upon Reboot Gohan. I haven't, unfortunately, been able to see a list yet. I'm trying to work on that to bring you guys to the channel this week, so bear with me. But I am being told that Sun Gohan Hidden Might is a pretty excellent card in the deck, and it makes a lot of sense because, I mean, you're putting yourself to 3 or less life inherently. That's just what your leader wants to do to awaken and start putting on big pressure. And then for that, you can drop a 2-drop 25k double strike unique deflect, and he has a pretty great auto when he's played of either removing a battle card or removing a unison a marker from it, right? The marker is probably not too relevant unless you're really trying to play around some counter plays, but besides that, getting rid of a problematic battle card, getting rid of a blocker, ignoring barrier, maybe like Sen Shenron matchup and things like that can be quite relevant. So I'm more curious to see how the other Draft Box 6 stuff has influenced Reboot Gohan. If you know more about that, drop that in the comments. I'm going to try and get you guys a profile this week for one of the more updated Reboot Gohan decks. Soul Striker, lots of cool stuff here. So the typical mono blue Soul Striker we've been seeing do very well in set 11 is not what we're seeing this weekend. We actually saw several Soul Striker Agents of Destruction do well here, and that's a very different build than your typical mono blue because you're playing a much more diversified color pool in your deck. But besides that, you're basically playing a aggro swarm deck, and the cool thing about Soul Striker is you get energy back available to just kind of like continue the swarm, right, which is really cool. So definitely more of an aggressive strategy. This weekend was definitely heavily favored towards aggressive strategies. We've been seeing that, which again is very interesting when you're talking about a best of 3 IRL event, when you generally are led to believe that these decks do much better in best of 1 events. But anyways, the other Soul Striker list that did top this weekend was a Soul Striker Apes list, playing the new blue ape stuff from Draft Box 6. That's incredibly cool to see. I'm actually gonna try and get you guys that profile as well on the channel if I can. What's cool there is, like, you know, that stuff is all tied to just blue leaders in general. I think that if you really want to play a pure Bardock's Crew deck, you're probably looking at the old Bardock's Crew leader until they make a new leader for the deck, because you have like that blue-yellow Bardock arrival that just seems to work really well with the whole strategy. But I think there are some things you can do in terms of playing just mono blue apes, where, you know, you have cards you put in your energy to evolve into these different apes. There's probably some sort of aggressive playstyle there you can work with. Some of them are blockers as well, so maybe there's a little bit of a wall type of strategy there. But that's still really cool to see that new type of deck doing very well in this environment. Next up, guys, Clash of Fates Goku. This one I know I'm going to have on the channel for you guys here. Clash Goku is so cool to see because I think it's one of those just like green good card decks. And what we've been seeing out of green in this format is mostly Majin Vegeta and green Gotenks. And those are much more archetype heavy decks, right? So just see a green good card dot deck doing well, kind of like in the same vein as Soul Striker, where Soul Striker is just really blue good card dot deck. To see that with green and essentially what's a set 10 deck that has a few new toys with some Draft Box 6 and some set 11 stuff, but what's really a set 10 deck still doing very well is really cool. This is also neat to see because this is a player that's been playing Clash Goku forever. I actually had him on the channel, I don't even know how long ago, but it was for another Clash Goku profile from several sets ago, so it's gonna be pretty cool to pick his brain and kind of see how he's been doing with this deck going forward. And then, guys, we have Blue Vegito. Again, we didn't see Soul Striker do as well as it's been doing the past several weeks, especially the beginning of set 11 format. But here's just a mono blue deck that just does powerful stuff, right? I mean, Vegeta, again, I've said it many times, pick the blue leader that, you know, pretty much fits your playstyle. Vegeta is great as a defensive deck for blue, and this is actually a great pick into this weekend, possibly like not knowingly, right? But this is a great pick going into the weekend because so much aggro did so well over the course of the weekend. Vegeta awakens at high life, plays a lot of blockers. You can make really cheap threats out of your unison just by tapping 2 blue. So Vegeta, definitely a solid pick. Once again, shout out to Gabe, my teammate, for topping with this deck out in California. And then guys, Red Broly, one of the decks that's definitely been most heavily bolstered by Draft Box 6. It's one of the decks that I'm most interested in this meta, to be quite honest with you, because there's so many cool things the deck can do. And now with Piccolo Jr. Giant Force, one of the deck's biggest problems, which was Dark Power Black Mass Sand, is now just like so easily answered with a +1 on that guy. It's just so good. And honestly, teching the 1-0 Fearless Pan in this deck for the -6, I thought it was honestly going to be much more of a meme, but because the -6 allows you to play it from hand, not only the deck, you can draw into it, and it's still not a dead card, which is honestly really cool. So Red Broly, again, another deck I think that is kind of capped by its promo. The 1-drop Broly is still very hard to get, but besides that, it's still a really fun deck, in my opinion. I know playing against it is not quite the same, but I'm going to have that first place list of Red Broly for you guys here on the channel as well. And then just to wrap it up, guys, this is stuff we're absolutely used to seeing, right? Green Gotenks, Majin Vegeta, Sin Shenron. Nothing here is too different from Draft Box 6, honestly, so I don't want to spend too much time going over it. I mean, Gotenks is just an ultra consistent deck. It's pretty much going to top every single week. It's probably not going to win most of the events, but it's just a good deck to pick if you want to land yourself in a top 8 and not have to, you know, think too much outside the box. Just do what the deck does. You're probably going to do pretty well. Sin Shenron is kind of in that same vein where it just does what the deck does. It plays the 9-drop Sin as often, as frequently as possible, but there's a little bit more nuance there, like knowing when to Meki and steal your opponent's stuff, knowing when to leave Meki up to block, knowing when to tap 6, or knowing when tapping 6 can like lose you the game. So there is some more nuance there, I will say that. And then Majin Vegeta, if you just want to like start winning the game turn 2, Majin Vegeta is probably another pick you can go with that's kind of outside the realm of Vegex, whether just a mono black's not your cup of tea, or if you really just want to play a Vegeta centric deck. I think Majin Vegeta is really good. But if you're gonna go with the turn 2 kill, Reboot Gohan and Majin and a Vegex, sorry, are probably just like your better options there, right? So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video today. I do want to know what you guys think about the several questions I asked throughout the video in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.